Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back with our friend Randy Swaim, bringing freedom to a potential, coaching for relevance. That's what he does as a leader, as a friend, as an author, movie star, all the above. He loves helping people like yourself in leadership situations, especially a lot of businesses out there, individuals, companies, corporations. He is one of the hottest go-to for coaches out there in the country. And again, with his qualifications, and he's very modest. Just Google him, you'll see. Randy, say hello today. How's your week been? Anything new and exciting?
Doing good. It's just been busy, just the normal aviation stuff for the first part of it. So that's, but really, it's just going through some of this stuff today for the show and all that. So just excited about that.
All right. Last we left off, I don't even remember, but it's always a good conversation. Where did you want to piggyback onto today about leadership? What did you have in mind for us today for your show?
Well, what I thought I would do today, because I was on a recording, an hour recording earlier today with my clients over in Coach Pulse and NPN Hub overseas and everything, and had some really good aspects about it. And it came from one of the blogs on my website that introduced it and all. But what I thought I would do, not go through every one of it, because I know this is a 30-minute show and everything, not go through every single thing that I brought out on it. But what I was going to do is, when you're talking about leading your team, or when you're talking about, or arranging so that your team and your company is going the good direction and all that kind of stuff, there's one key area that people have to think about, and I thought I'd just bring that out and bring a couple of aspects to it that people need to think about it, particularly in today's world. And a lot of things that are going in today's world, don't really do that well. So we'll see. But just I thought I'd bring that here in just a minute.
All right, let's do it. And by the way, Randy, I just want to let you know, obviously you can be reached if you are watching the show. Website, coachingforrelevance.com. It can be seen right there. And
Yep.
also your book, Amazon, and just Google his name. He's here. So let's get started for today.
And if somebody wants to see my Hollywood movie documentary, if you go to my website for the main, for the homepage on the website, and you scroll down, there's a big square that shows the Hollywood movie documentary, and people can go in and set it up to purchase it. Or just below that, there's another big square that has the Amazon, autobiography in it. So people can do that. And a easy way to get there can be maybe going to my homepage on my website if they want to. So just as a golly gee whiz.
Got it. Perfect. We're there. Can't wait.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, if you want, I'll go ahead and get started in this. It's not something that's going to take a real long time, but it is a key aspect that when you're talking about leading and or developing your team, particularly in a situation that is not just rote academic, kind of thing, aligned with my organizational maneuverability concept and everything. But what I was going to do, and one of the central themes that I had in that video that's going to be posted and stuff like that, but it had this aspect of, when people, when a situation is arising and people are there, what? There's two things that sometimes people do, one or the other. Okay. And what it is what I throw out, though, this aspect of feeding back or feeding forward. And you know what? When we talked about feeding back and kind of feedback on it, what a lot of people have a tendency to do today is, when situations come up, they look back on something that maybe they did before, and their entire focus goes on to, okay, well, that's what we need to do. Well, you know what? Possibly, but you know what? the situation that is arising may have a couple of other factors involved with it that can stress that. And so just something to think about. Don't make the assumptions when you need to on that. But then the other part of it is with situations that are arising, guess what? There may be a couple of factors that are involved in this situation that you didn't see or were not aware of, or maybe just a part of your leadership team was aware of it. And you can come up with the right successful decision to move. And this basically deals with when you're talking about moving forward with this, and when you're talking about looking at it and going forward, and not just going to something that you did 10 years ago or whatever. Because guess what? That may not be applicable for the factors that you see in the situation that you're in with this. And so it's just something to think about, that as you're looking at these kinds of things in a situational awareness type situation, if all you're doing is coming up with superficial rote thoughts on it, and all you're doing is going back to something you did 10 years ago or whatever, with something,
Mm-hmm.
that may not be successful, and it may not be good for you. And it may not be training and developing your team well.
Okay.
So when you're looking at the actual situation, guess what? There may be one or two team members that are aware of certain factors in it that you didn't see or that somebody else didn't see. And you know, and can you work together as a team, as a synergistic team, and truly come up with the right solution and the right successful aspect on that when you go into that. And it's just something to think about, that a lot of people um, sort of don't think about. You have a lot of people that just go back to what they remember back in the day or something. And I think I've shared this on a show before, this one little aspect of it, that if all you're doing is going back to what you would have expected, guess what? Not all the factors may be exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
And with the decision that you're doing and the strategy that you're trying to come up with to fix that and to move it, may not be successful. And the other part of this, which is very interesting, is when you're leading your team, if all you're doing is having them go back to something they remembered before and making assumptions where they're just assuming that this is the same thing again, guess what? It may not be. And do you have their ability? Have you developed them to such a point where they can truly assess the unexpected factors that are coming on scene with it? And they can give some real mental processing and neuroscience to truly come up with the solution that can be really good for that, and come up with great, solutions. Now, part of that can be you leading them on that, but part of it may be them coming up with solutions on that that are radically successful. And if you think about it, when you're doing that, not only are you applying real success to it, but the other part of it is you're also bringing out aspects that make your company more successful than you thought, or that somebody else may have thought. But the bottom line is, not every situation that comes on scene is exactly the same. And if all the person's mind is doing is simply sitting there and going to rote academic superficial things, guess what? That's not what you want to do. You want to gain real clarity on the absolute factors that are on scene and that are coming on scene, and having clarity with you and your team about what you need to do that and to bring the real success to it. And And so it's just something to think about in this case that, like I said, one of the things that you hear people say sometimes is when things are happening, are you venting back or are you venting forward? Kind of thing. And what I, challenge for people is there may be something that you kind of dealt with this 2 years ago back here. Okay, that can be a start,
Mm-hmm.
but also what you want to do is really involve your situational awareness so that you are aware of certain factors that are different than that and be aware of the situation and the solution and the strategy. If it's a little bit different, maybe, and you know what? Maybe you need to do that. And so it's just a lot of things like that is if all you're doing is leading yourself and leading your team to go back and vent backwards, guess what? That's not necessarily what you want to do. What you want to do really is to vent forward so that you can see the absolute and actual factors involved in the situation that is arising and have clarity on what you need to do to apply a truly successful outcome in that situation. And it's just something to think about. It's not just, it's not just venting back or venting full, whatever. Don't just go with what you thought about, a couple of years ago. If you had a situation that you went to 5 years ago back here, just because you see something coming on scene does not necessarily mean that it's going to be exactly the same. And so if you go back and do what you did back then, may or may not be really successful. And so there are times when you talk about the strategic awareness, the strategic vision, and the strategy development. There are times there where you have to be very much aware of the situations and what's likely. And here's the thing that you know that uh, a lot of people don't understand. Sometimes when you see the situation coming on scene, it may be that you don't see an alternative factor yet. But if you were surprised by a couple of unexpected factors, what might they be in the situation you're talking about? And you know what? And be aware that if they start to come on scene, you know what you need to do to minimize the risk and to really generate success on it. And so it's just something to think about that when you're talking about these sort of things, keep in mind that just venting back to go back and look at you know the past and what you did back there and all this kind of stuff. That that's okay, but you know what? You don't want to do that as your primary thing. What you want to do is vent forward and have true awareness of the actual situation that may be coming on scene and what is involved with it, because that doesn't necessarily mean that it's exactly the same as it was back in the past. So if all you're doing mentally, and if you think about this from a neuroscience standpoint, if all you are doing is thinking about what you did 5 years ago or whatever, guess what? If that's your assumption on everything, may not be really successful for what you're looking for. You may need to perceive a few things that maybe you wouldn't have. You never know. But the other side of it too is when you're developing your team, because as you know, the team members, guess what? One of the things you're going to be doing while you're growing and developing your team is in some cases asking them questions along the way to get them thinking and get them processing information and things like that. And if all you're doing is saying, yeah, go back to that, you're not doing it well. You're not really developing them. But if you get them truly thinking about the factors and the unexpected factors that may be coming on scene with the situation that's just in the short future here, kind of thing, so that they know exactly what they need to do and what they need to be aware of and what they need to watch for and how they need to make their decisions. Because it's just because you vented back, but a lot of people today just vent back to what they were used to back in the day. Well, you know what? Not all the situations are exactly that. And so, when you do have a situation coming on forward, what you truly want to do is to be able to vent forward to understand what the situation is developing, what are the factors that are coming up and coming on scene, and what am I trying to accomplish? And now what do I need to do to really make that happen in a successful way? And so it's just one aspect about it that, again, all I'm doing here is I'm just bringing in this one aspect of the vending back versus vending forward. You know what? If all you're doing is going back to your past, you're not. If you think about it, a lot of people, a lot of people that may be listening to this have probably heard somebody say this, that, yeah, we've seen that before. You know what? It's just this and stuff. Well, guess what? On this situation going forward, it may not be exactly that. And if you're making the assumption that it is exactly what it was before, you may be wrong.
Yeah.
And so it's just something to think about, that as people are having situations come in their strategic planning and thinking, what I'd strongly recommend to them is that they don't just go vent back, but they vent forward. They look forward and they assess and they realize the actual situation and the actual factors and what they need to do as a team and to what extent. And when in today's world where not everything is always the same exactly, every time or whatever, you got to be aware of what the actual situation is. And so I just leave that with some of the people there to think about it. When you're getting ready for situations that are coming on scene, what I
Yeah.
just kind of strongly recommend is that you don't just focus on, venting back. What you want to do is vent forward and look forward to the strategy, to the actual factors involved, not the ones you assumed were 5 years ago or whatever, but the actual factors and what you actually need to do to really reach the radical results. And so I just something to think about. Just this aspect of, to what extent, people that are listening, to what extent are you constantly venting back to try to get the road academic answer to your situation or whatever? You know what? May not be good. What you want to do is you want to vent forward
Yeah.
and you want to get the actual situation with the actual factors involved to be able to do that. And so I just kind of throw that out for today. Like I say, the factor of the vent forward versus vent back, that's just was one little tiny aspect of what we did on the other video. So it didn't bring all that in, but just something to think about for today and for what we're doing here. Um, just have some awareness on that. And also, if you're developing your team, develop your team so that they're looking forward and not just back. Uh, and so those are just some key things to realize, to be aware of, and to apply in a positive way, so that you can reach real satisfaction that a lot of people sometimes don't fully understand.
Thank you. Learning new terminology. Forward. Yeah, interesting. Never looked at it that way. Never. Mm. Well,
What's that?
I guess the way you said it, moving forward. Not moving forward. How did you say it just now? I can't.
Sort of vending forward, where
Vending
you're
forward. Thank you. Vending
looking
forward.
forward
Looking
and
forward.
making your assumption based on the factors that you see forward, not just what you did 5 years ago.
Gotcha. Looking forward. Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Randy.
And so,
Randy.
so really the real reality and creating real situational awareness, not just what you were used to maybe 5 years ago or something. And Because a lot of times, a lot of people in today's world have a tendency to just go with their rote little thing from years ago when something comes up. But guess what? This situation may not be exactly that. And so vent forward to be able to assess the actual situation and to gain clarity on exactly what you need to do, what you need to apply, and to get the success out of it. So, yeah, so just something to think about.
Thank you, Randy. Well, we still got plenty of more time. Any other stories you want to share or reflections that
Basically,
got?
that's the one there. But the bottom line is, I appreciate being on with you, and I appreciate the these kind of aspects and being able to share some of them, um, because um, this is actually a key aspect when you're talking about organizational maneuverability, or the fact that not everything fits just rote academic situations, kind of thing. You have a lot of factors that can kind of come on scene, and people have to be aware of that. So it's not just shutting your brain off and going into what you learned in a school or something like that. Understand the reality of the situation and the application of it, and make it so that real success can happen. And so that's just a key aspect of it that a lot of people don't fully understand. It's not just about going with rote academic things that you learned maybe 5 or 7 years ago or whatever. It's basically gaining insights in your brain, in your neuroscience processing brain, to basically understand the true reality and application of the situation you are in, which may be different from what you were used to. And in that situation, what's the solution and the factor that you have to apply? And being able to process that correctly and come up with it clearly, but then also be able to share it with your team members so that they are aware of it and their understanding of the reality and the application of it and all of that. All of that is just a key part of it that sometimes people don't think about.
Thank you, Randy. Randy. Well,
Yeah.
um, yeah. I mean, it's hard. I've been talking to you for so long, and
And I'll tell you what, I welcome talking to you. I appreciate you, my friend.
thank you, thank you. I love speaking with you here on this platform, and you're always so eager and so kind to help, to do what you do. And I know you're going to be working there until your, well, how do you say it? To your last breath. You're never giving up. You're
Yeah.
never
You
stopping,
know,
right?
I've
Um,
had people ask me when I'm going to retire, and I say when I take my last breath, because for me, I'm going to run through the tape.
And with that being said, you always have this way of helping and working, and I just want to know what makes you happiest. What makes you happy in life? You wake up every day. What's the first thing that comes to mind? I mean, it's probably a lot, but
Well, there is a lot, but I will say this, that for me, it's not just about what I get, which is what it is with a lot of people and stuff, but what I care about is what's the difference of my life? What impact, what is happening, what's this the source and the concept of my life story. One of these days when I do take my last breath, what did people see and experience in ways that made them in a way a little bit better, or a little bit more successful, or whatever, kind of thing. um, for me, it's just about making a difference and having my life journey make a little bit of a difference. I mean, I will say this, that I have lived my life. I've done what I wanted to do. Air Force, uh, flying and fighter flying, and flying Learjets on military type operations, kind of thing, and all that, and then training other pilots for a lot of years, but then also, becoming a master. Certified master level neuroplastician with the Institute for Organizational Neuroscience in Germany, but also Marshall Goldsmith certified executive coach, and being able to bring all that to just make a difference in people's lives. And so that, what I hope is that when I take my last breath, there are a number of people out there that their lives have just sort of made a difference, not because of anything necessarily that I just gave them or anything like that, but just from their experience. And I will say this, that when I was in the Air Force, the squadron commander that I flew with a number of times was Richard B. Myers. And and I don't know if people realize this, but basically back in, I think it was, in fact, I think it was about 2000 or 1990s or something like that. But I heard that General Richard B. Myers was selected as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the Air Force. He was the very first Air Force officer that was chosen as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. But that blew me away in a positive way, because the time that I flew with him and the time that I served with him in our squadron, I learned more from him than people will ever imagine. And it's not because of anything he ever told me. It's because of what I observed in how he did what he did. And that is huge. And that's, in a lot of ways, that's what a number of people have gained from observing me and stuff. So it's just, it's a key aspect of it, not just about whatever go, but, I want to, make it all good so that, when I take my last breath, my grandson or my great grandkids are okay and all that sort of stuff. But it's, that's what it is. It's just not about calling attention to me necessarily. That's not what I try to do. I mean, are people aware of me? Yep. But for me, it's just about, when I do take my last breath, what I hope is that there's a lot of people out there that just gained little insights, and it sort of made a difference in their life as they applied it to their life. And so that's just a key aspect of what I want.
All right, Randy, thank you. How can we contact you?
Well, as you know, if you go to my website, coachingforrelevance.com, and go to the homepage, at the very bottom of the homepage, it has my email address and my cell phone number down there. So if anybody wants to contact me, they're welcome to. You're not going to get a lot of sales pitches, but I will say this, that if you come up with the need, we'll come up with something.
All right.
But if all you want to do is have a chat, that's fine. So,
right.
But that's a quick way to do it.
Thank you again, Randy. Always a pleasure. Enjoy your day, sweetheart. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Well, listen, you too. And I hope you have a great rest of the week and a great weekend.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.